February 2026. So we're continuing with our liberation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Fascinating chapter. Liberated from the Mayic illusory conceptions of Maya. So we'll begin. Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaudachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tada Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Sri Caitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Priya Sarupe, Daita Sarupe, Prema Sarupe, Sahajavi Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhueka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swabalasa Rupe. Anapita Chirim Chirat Kurunaivaratino Kalo, Samarapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Svabhakti Shriyam, Hari Purata Sundaradati Kadamba Siddhipita, Sada Kridare Kandare Spuratu Vasachinandanaha, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga, Shikshashtameka Purusha Purana Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sariradari Kripam Buddhayastamaham Prabhadye Yam Prabhajantam Anapetyam Apetya Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tam Matayo Tarabo Vinidus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktiya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha karmadi tarangamadye Kripa maitvam sharanam prapana Brinde namaste charanarvindam Bhajami radam aravinda netram Smarami radam madhurashmitasyam Vadami radam karuna varadram Tato mamanasti katina kapi Tavaivasmi najivami tvaivina Iti vignaya radhe tvam laimam charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams under the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Madhya-lila, Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again, millions and millions of times, under the lotus feet of my beloved Madhya-lila, Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. And especially to Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, my Sastang Dandavat Pranams, and to all our divine Rupanuga Guru Varg, and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat Pranams to everybody. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevicha, Patitanam Pavanivyo, Vaishnavevyo, Namo Namaha. So now we're going to the very heart of it, the very heart of this Mayavad covering. And I've commented a number of times as we're going through, who are the Mayavads that are being spoken about here regularly? It's not a group or a tribe of Mayavads somewhere. We should consider ourselves Mayavads if we're not focusing fully on bringing Krishna pleasure at every moment. Then there's some taint. It's not pure bhakti, it's mixed, it's mishra. So the instruction can go very deep for us when we consider that I am the one who is not considering sufficiently my progress in devotion to Krishna. I'm thinking more about my own selfish happiness, and everybody is concerned with that. This is, most people are concerned with that. Very few are able to break out of that. Maybe momentarily during the day, for a few moments of the day, we can actually break out when we're fully engaged in service to Krishna. It's a gradual progress to become purified of this. Now Mahaprabhu is walking us through with so much patience this purification of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So many points are being brought up. So the last couple of verses we were quoting from Bhagavad Gita, it's saying that earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego are my eightfold separated energies. And then Krishna is saying, besides these inferior energies, which are material, there is another energy, a spiritual energy, And this is the living being. So the living being is the spiritual energy, Antaranga Shakti. That's his essential constitution. But he's influenced to be covered by the Bahiranga, the inferior energy. But his actual nature is that of spirit. That should give us encouragement to always understand that that is my constitution. My constitution is not to stoop to try to, again, enjoy this Mayic world, but to connect with my spiritual identity. This is again beautifully spoken in Jivadharma in the first chapter we've mentioned before. This, what is the swabhav, what is the nature of the jiva? And the beautiful example is given of ice, a block of ice, an iceberg, for example. If we ask the iceberg what is its nature, what is its constitution, it'll say that it's very hard. It's been hard perhaps for millions of years. But actually, if a warm current comes, it comes back to its swabhav. It comes back to its original nature. So this is called nishag, this acquired nature. So we have an acquired nature. We have built up an affinity to the material energy. We're operating in the material energy all the time. And we're convinced that actually this material body is me, because it's very strong. Maya Devi is so strong. Never underestimate Maya Devi, her potency to put you into illusion in a second. And the illusion of being the body, and we're praying that at the time of death, I can have this realization that my body is breaking down and it's going to deteriorate. It's going to eventually just end in dust, in nothing, or worm stool, whatever. So our journey in life is to try and step off this bodily platform, this nishak, this acquired nature. But if we're educated and we know about these things and we remember them and we're reminded of them regularly, then we can make headway, we can make progress. And then in text 166, it's saying the transcendental form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is complete in eternity, cognizance, and bliss. However, you describe this transcendental form as a product of material goodness, because he can only think in material conceptions. That's the Mayavad. He can't think of the fourth dimension, that Turiya dimension, that fourth dimension, which is beyond the material world altogether. That exists, and we're from that place. That's our nature. That's our heritage. That's our home. Why are we so much attached to this material world? Because we think we can find happiness here. And we've become addicted to this material enjoyment in one way or another. It's true. Everyone is. So this addiction to this pleasure in the material world is called a Mayavad. That's what it means. It means someone who is, but there are different degrees of Mayavad. There's hardcore Mayavad, that even with philosophy, they never want to understand that there is a supreme person. So that's like hardcore, but there are other shades of coverings by Maya. So we're all in process of purifying these shades of Maya. It's not all one. Everyone has a distinct rasa with Krishna ultimately, and a different flavor. So we should consider all of these things together. So text 167 is where we've come to today. So this is our journey out of the Mayavad conception, according to Shastra. Okay.
Ishvarera Shri Vigraha Sachidanandakara.
167.
He's reading 166.
Okay.
166.
Go ahead.
Ishvarera Shri Vigraha Sachidanandakara Shri Vigrahe Kaha Sattva Gunera Vikara.
The transcendental form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is complete in eternity, cognizance, and bliss. However, you describe his transcendental form as a product of material goodness. That's as far as his understanding can go. Okay, 167.
Shri Vigrahayena Mane Seita Pashandi Adrasya Sprisha Sei Hayaya Madandi.
One who does not accept the transcendental form of the Lord is certainly agnostic. This means he doesn't know, it means he's ignorant. Such a person should be neither seen nor touched. Indeed, he is subject to be punished by Yamaraj. So this is the lowest type of conception, when he doesn't want to accept the form of the Lord. And, for example, in the Western world, unless they're knowledgeable about Krishna, which most of them are beginning to, they've heard Krishna. Most of the people in the Western world, due to the preaching of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and my Gurudev and many other preachers, have heard of the Hare Krishnas. Just to say Hare Krishna invokes like an inspiration towards understanding the nature that this person, God, has a name, etc. So for many people, it'll be an impetus to begin to come out of this impersonal conception. So without this education, you just remain in the material world, punishable by Yamaraj. According to the Vedic instructions, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has its eternal transcendental form, which is always blissful, full of knowledge, and full of knowledge. Impersonalists think that material refers to the forms within our experience, and that spiritual refers to an absence of form. Right? They consider that spiritual means something ephemeral, something that you can't see, it's not tangible to the material senses. So it's like somewhat of a dream. They have all kinds of like spiritual, so-called spiritual activities where they try to invoke the spirits, etc. They might be invoking demigods or different persons. There are so many entities in the world, but they're in the subtle realm. They're not in the spiritual realm. The distinction between subtle, that's like the astral plane, and the spiritual plane is vast. So many times people become bewildered worshipping demigods and even getting some remuneration, some influence from the demigods. But we should know what is actual spirit. And in that spiritual world, there is a spiritual being, a completely full spiritual, and all the residents of that world are completely spiritual. Refers to an absence of form. This is what they think. However, one should know that beyond this material nature is another nature, which is spiritual. Just as there are material forms in this material world, there are spiritual forms in the spiritual world. This is confirmed by all Vedic literatures. The spiritual forms in the transcendental world have nothing to do with the negative conception of formlessness. So that formlessness is just an imagination, basically, or it's like seeing a ghost or something and thinking that's a spirit. You understand? Actual spiritual forms exist in the spiritual world, but we don't have the eyes to see that. The spiritual forms in the transcendental world have nothing to do with the negative conception of formlessness. The conclusion is that a person is an agnostic when he does not agree to worship the transcendental form of the Lord. An agnostic is like an atheist. He just refused to accept the ultimate reality. He says, I don't know, even though it's right in front of his face. Actually, at the present moment, all systems of religion deny the worship of the form of the Lord due to ignorance of his transcendental form. This is right. We see my experience in Christianity. They worship a form of Christ, but the actual form of God is never particularly described in detail. There's quotes like in the Bible, in my Father's house there are many mansions. There's reference by the prophet Christ to the spiritual realm. But the actual experience of form in the spiritual world is not accessible to them because they don't have education about it. Everything depends on education. We are so fortunate and blessed to be reading these very powerful writings of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He's giving us the whole picture in this chapter, in fact, of the distinction between what is matter and spirit. This is the first lesson in spiritual life. The second chapter of Bhagavad Gita is just full of verses. Dehino
Dehinosmin yatha dehi.
tatehi komaram yogranja. These verses all the way through in the Bhagavad Gita, second chapter. What is matter? What is spirit? This is the first lesson in spiritual life. We have to know this distinction between matter and spirit. This is what's being explained. Spirit isn't something ephemeral. It isn't something like an imagined ethereal form. Those spiritual bodies are real, much more real actually than these material bodies. These material bodies are nimitic. They're going to decay. They're temporary. The spiritual bodies are nitya, and we have a spiritual body within us. We have that form within us. It's in seed form at the moment, but if we water it with the energy of our sadhana bhakti and the mercy of Guru, then we can wake up that original form, that original spiritual body, to engage in spiritual service to the Supreme. It's a wonderful proposition. I mean, we should all want very much to wake up our real nature. If I'm telling you that you have $1 billion, you know, that you haven't accessed in the bank, you'll be very anxious probably to retrieve it. But the spiritual form is much more valuable than $1 billion. The spiritual form will be eternal. So why don't we pay more attention to waking up this spiritual nature within ourselves? The conclusion is that a person is an agnostic or atheist when he does not agree to worship the transcendental form of the Lord. Actually, at the present moment, all systems of religion deny the worship of the form of the Lord. Can you just look up the word agnostic in your Google and tell me? I want to know the dictionary definition clearly. Actually, at the present moment, all systems of religion deny the worship of
agnostic.
just yeah. Okay. All.
An agnostic is someone who believes that the existence of God, the divine or the supernatural, is unknown or unknowable.
Yes.
Unlike an atheist who
An atheist denies any conception of the truth. An agnostic claims that he doesn't know the truth.
Yeah.
And he also thinks that no one else knows the truth. Yes, this is what I just wanted to hear the dictionary definition. Actually, at the present moment, all systems of religion deny the worship of the form of the Lord due to ignorance of his transcendental form. This is why, as devotees, we're constantly hearing the beautiful pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. This is the highest conception of Krishna. We can hear Krishna as Varahadev, we can hear Krishna as Nrsimhadev, we can hear Krishna as Kurma in Vaikuntha. We can hear all about his Vaikuntha Leelas, which are very inspiring, which give us focus on Narayan. But then beyond that, there is another conception. There's the conception of Ayodhya, and you go higher than that, the conception of Dwarka. Then you can go higher than that, the conception of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. And they're all quite distinct prakoshts or areas of Krishna's pastimes. They're quite different, especially between the Braj mood and the Dwarka mood. We can go into this later. The first class materialist, now it's got in brackets Mayavadis. So this is what I was explaining at the beginning. Who is the Mayavadi? If we have even a shadow of desire for material pleasure, then we are considered materialists. Then you can't go in 6th or 7th gear forward because you're always holding back because you have a material agenda secretly. Sometimes it's covered by the devotees. They can wear their tilak and they can be chanting, going to the temple, but actually their heart is packed with material desires. They're not going forward really very fast, but that's the process. That's the process. First class materialists, the Mayavadis, imagine 5 specific forms of the Lord. But when they try to equate the worship of such imaginary forms with bhakti, they are immediately condemned. This is the Panchopashana. This is Suryadev, Devi, Ganeshji, Shivji, and one more.
Durgama?
I said
Mataji, it came
Durga
in
Ma,
Mataji.
Surya, Ganesh,
Surya, Ganesh, Shivji, and
Devi, Shivji, and Vishnu.
Vishnu.
Yeah.
They put Vishnu in amongst all those demigods. That's Panchopashana. Those five forms of worship. Imagine 5 specific forms of the Lord, but these aren't spiritual. The Devas will all leave their bodies after 1 Manvantara. We discussed before, 1 Manvantara is about 309 million years. That's the duration of the life of the residents of Swargaloka. So it's a temporary existence. But when they try to equate the worship of such imaginary forms with bhakti, they are immediately condemned. Lord Sri Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 7.15, where he says, Namam duskritino mudha prapadyante naradama. Bereft of real knowledge due to agnosticism, due to ignorance in other words, the Mayavadi philosophers should not ever be seen by the devotees of the Lord, nor touched, because those philosophers are liable to be punished by Yamaraj. When it's saying this, not to be seen or touched, this means not to make an intimate friendship, not to associate in an intimate way with the Mayavadis. Very often, the elder generation, perhaps our parents and people like this, they're totally entrenched in the material conception. And we've been brought up to have a loving, like a child's relationship with mother, etc. But we should understand there should be some distance in the heart. And it's not necessary to share all the teachings that you've received in a way that I expect them to understand. It's very difficult because in an older body, you're pretty much habituated to your way of thought. If you're trying to preach to a 60 or 70 or 80-year-old man, he's already had that much material experience and conviction that he is the material body. So the best way in those instances is to just demonstrate pure qualities of a Vaishnava around them and let them engender respect towards you. That will be greatly to their advantage. But don't be trying to dogmatically preach to people of that nature. Bereft of real knowledge due to agnosticism, the Mayavadi philosophers should not even be seen by the devotees of the Lord, nor touched, because those philosophers are liable to be punished by Yamaraj, the superintendent demigod, who judges the activities of sinful men. Yamaraj's job, he's one of the Mahajans, yes, he's one of the Mahajans himself who knows about devotional service, but he's doing his service to rectify the wayward conditioned souls. This is his job, and we need that rectification. Otherwise, we'll just go from life after life after life, engaging in non-devotional sinful activities. The Mayavadi agnostics wander within this universe in different species of life due to their non-devotional activities. Such living entities are subjected to the punishments of Yamaraj. In the 5th canto, we see those horrendous punishments. If we read this Garuda Purana, you see very clearly the punishments there. We can post this again, I think we have done previously. I hope some of you will look at this Garuda Purana. It's what most Indian householders read, some chapters from this at the time of anyone's leaving their body.
I read that.
Yes, and it's horrific, right?
Really
It's supposed, really horrific. It's supposed to like frighten the heck out of you. And it's such horrific punishments await the conditioned souls. How else can Krishna bring them to their senses except by extreme cases? Only devotees who are always engaged in the service of the Lord are exempt from the jurisdiction of Yamaraj. And what is a symptom of a devotee? He wears his kantimala. With his kantimala, Yamaraj cannot put the rope. His pashu, what's the name of Yamaraj's rope? Do you know?
Rope's name.
Yeah.
It's a pashu.
Yamadanda?
Yamadanda is a pashu. A particular rope that goes around, from Yamaraj, he has a rope that goes around your neck and drags you down. Just like we see the painting of Ajamil when he was leaving his body and the rope had gone around his neck and the Yamadutas were pulling him. Huh?
Yampash.
Yamapash. Yamapash.
Yampash.
Yamapash, yes. This Pashu, Yamapash. So this is his rope, but it can't touch if one has neck beads on. And it's quite remarkable that when we try to actually give even sometimes people who are leaving their body in hospitals, and perhaps they might have been quite good people or they're relatives of ours, we give them neck beads, etc. I had a friend whose father was actually very sinful, and my friend, he put the neck beads on, and he came the next day, his father had left his body and the neck beads were sitting on the counter beside, and he was very unhappy. He said to the nurse, "Why did you take the neck beads off?" He said, "Oh, my father said they were too tight around his neck." But then he got a tighter rope from Yamaraj. You know, I mean, you can't cheat Krishna. We try to help our loved ones like that, but we have our karmic results coming to us in either way. Okay, text 168.
Vedana maniya bodha hayata nastika Veda ashraya nastikya vada bodha ke adhika.
The Buddhists do not recognize the authority of the Vedas. Therefore, they are considered agnostics. So they don't know, they don't understand. However, those who have taken shelter of the Vedic scriptures yet preach agnosticism in accordance with the Mayavad philosophy are certainly more dangerous than the Buddhists. So those who imitate the Vaishnavas, but they have these deep material desires within their hearts. We see in organizations, spiritual organizations, sometimes there's individuals who only want to be the top of the organization. And they're juggling their whole lives with trying to arrange a position for themselves. How can that be Krishna conscious? How can that be a sincere devotee wanting to please the Lord? The Lord will bestow his authority on anybody who he considers sincere to guide other people. You don't need to be rubber stamped with that. Anyway, just appreciate our thought. All the Buddhists are directly opposed to Vaishnava philosophy. It can easily be understood that the Sankarites are more dangerous because they accept the authority of the Vedas, yet act contrary to Vedic instruction. So they have these 4 Mahavakyas we talked about yesterday. Aham Brahmasmi. What's that other one? So these 4. Shivaham, I am God.
Aham Brahmasmi.
I said that already. Aham Brahmasmi, that's the first one I said.
Tattvamasi.
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 Yes.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be in a group of educated devotees today. It's good. So yes, these 4 Mahavakyas are all proclaiming by Shivji that the jiva ultimately is God. And that was the prevalent philosophy, Advaitavad, all across Bharatvash, before Ramanuja began to purify that misconception. And then this is what our Sampradayas have done. Madhavacharya purified even more. He said, yes, the jiva is like one with God in service to God. There are 2. There's Krishna and there's the jiva, distinct 2. So all these Sampradayas are explaining like this, and they are establishing the authenticity of the jiva's insignificance as anuchit, serving the vibhuchit, the great personality. This is the distinction between matter and spirit that we learn in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Vedashraya Nastikya Vad means agnosticism under the shelter of Vedic culture. That means I'm ignorant even though I'm embracing the Vedic precepts. I haven't actually understood the first Vedic precept, that I'm not the body. If I'm thinking that I'm the body, then I want happiness for my body. And that's creating great disturbance. So the real Vaishnava doesn't sit on that platform. Agnosticism under the shelter of Vedic culture, and refers to the monist philosophy of the Mayavadis. Lord Buddha abandoned the authority of the Vedic literature and therefore rejected the ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices recommended in the Vedas. These ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices are all pleasing to the Lord in certain instances. If someone is a Sakam Kama Bhakta, they will petition the Lord with these various ceremonies. It's not bhakti, it's not Shuddha Bhakti, but it's a purification path on the way to bhakti. If they are performing those activities, then it's at least they're in touch with the Vedic texts. So they're beginning. Actually, we should realize and remember this verse from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, not a verse, but he said, who is a Vaishnava? He says, everyone is a Vaishnava. Some know it and some don't know it. So this is the bottom line, so to speak. And we should approach all this with that type of vision and compassion, not just be thinking, oh, he's not a Vaishnava, so I'll reject him. We realize that in his core of his heart, he has that seed of potential to serve the Lord. Everyone does. But he's vacant without knowledge. So Lord Buddha abandoned the authority of the Vedic literature and therefore rejected the ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices recommended in the Vedas. He had to do that because he wanted to purify the Brahmins who were using the yagyas to kill animals. They were taking advantage of the Vedic ceremonies to eat meat. Lord Buddha manifests for the philosophy of ahimsa, this non-violence. That's why he manifested. But those Vedic rituals had to be expelled. And this is what he did, Buddha avatar. And it's Sankaracharya who brought the Vedic teachings back, but with the same spin of Advaitavad that Lord Buddha had. Buddhistic thought and Shankaracharya are like one. It's just covered Buddhism, covered Mayavadism. Both are the same, in fact. His nirvana philosophy means stopping all material activities. Lord Buddha did not recognize the presence of transcendental forms and spiritual activities beyond the material world. He simply described voidism beyond this material existence. So that void is what the Buddhists have as their ultimate goal. But it can be very bewildering. I know at the moment I've seen these Buddhist monks are walking across America and they're very renounced. They have all good qualities materially, and it's very appealing to the general populace, which is so much without any good qualities. So they're seeing these renounced people, they're seeing them pray, etc., chant. They have no idea of the ultimate goal of their philosophy, but it's appealing for the general people. It's like this is the age of Kali Yuga. All these other influences, they become heightened in people's minds as being, yes, that's the goal, to be peaceful like a Buddhist monk. There are many Buddhists today. They're not really Buddhists because they don't really understand the philosophy, but they're going, Kali Maharaj can use these religions to influence the more degraded nature of the age, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it looks very wonderful what they're doing. And everyone comes out, they bring their dogs, and the Tibetan monks, they pat the dogs and everyone, it's like a show, almost of friendship. But what is the ultimate reality behind it all? Lord Buddha did not recognize the presence of transcendental forms and spiritual activities beyond the material world. He simply described voidism beyond this material existence. The Mayavadi philosophers offer lip service to the Vedic authority, but try to escape the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. They concoct some idea of a transcendental position and call themselves Narayan, or God. We see these saffron-robed people walking around in Braj a lot. They say Dridra Narayan, poor Narayan, as if Narayan can become poor. They believe that they will become that Narayan eventually when they have more purified mentality. It's really tragic. It's really subtle, because we have the proclivity, we have the nature to be like God. That is there. We're Vibhinamsa, we're separated parts of God. We have the same constitution. But if it goes out of control and you actually want to be God, and imagine that you can create billions of planets and destroy them and then create them again, is totally absurd. But it's man's illusion. I mean, man today, we can say these Mayavads, Prabhupada always used to refer the scientists as being the Mayavads. And we see how they're trying to be godlike using these, what do you call, jet streams, chemtrails, I think they're called chemtrails, to make the weather change.
Yeah.
They sprinkle these aluminium flakes and it reflects the sun.
Cloud seeding. Cloud seeding.
Cloud shedding.
Cloud seeding.
Cloud seeding. And then they think that they actually can control the weather patterns. They've taken over. You know, they spend their whole lives trying to do this. What's wrong with God's creation, with his weather as it is? Why? It's like someone trying to walk on water. You can take a 2-rupee boat across the river. You don't have to walk on the water. So all these things, actually, they have no real purpose or value, ultimately. However, God's position is completely different from their concoction. The position of the Lord is only full of unlimited love. This is the point and the heart that they miss. If they had any conception of the compassionate, loving nature of the Lord, which is revealed through his pastimes, like the Putana pastime. Even with Putana, the great witch came to kill Krishna. He gave her a form in Goloka Vrindavan as a nursemaid. I mean, his compassion is just, he comes to this world with so many different avatars to protect the world. Varahadev comes to pick the world out of the ocean. So many benevolent, generous, compassionate activities he performs for the welfare of the jivas. If we consider that personal aspect and want to have a connection and relationship with this person, that is the essence. That is the reality of life. That is our heritage. Such Mayavadi philosophers consider themselves above the influence of karma kand, fruitive activities, and their reactions. He's talking about the Buddhists here. For them, the spiritual world is equated with the Buddhist voidism. Yes, these karma kandis, or the people that are described as Narayan, describing themselves as Narayan, they consider themselves above this fruitive results of their karma, and they're just focusing on this void. And we've already discussed what's in the void: Gyan and Vairagya. These impersonal qualities. There's no relationship, there's no sambandha, we've said repeatedly. There's no sat, there's no existence. It's just the chit shakti that is there. There is very little difference between impersonalists and voidism. Voidism can be directly understood, but the impersonalism enunciated by Mayavadi philosophers is not very easily understandable. So this is going back to the verse that the Buddhists are not as bad as the Mayavadi. The Mayavadi philosophy is much more dangerous than the Buddhist, because the Mayavadi has the appearance of being like a devotee, but actually he's harboring all those material desires. Now we have to consider our own self in this regard, and then we can progress. We can take these instructions into our own lives. Voidism can be directly understood by the Voidism can be directly understood, but the impersonalist enunciated by the Mayavadi philosophers is not very easily understandable. Of course, Mayavadi philosophers accept a spiritual existence, but they do not know about the spiritual world and spiritual beings, according to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:2-32.
Yannirvindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayastabhavada vishuddha buddhaya arhurya krichena param padam tata patanti adho nidrityushman akriya.
The intelligence of the Mayavadis is not purified. Therefore, even though they practice austerities for self-realization, They cannot remain within the impersonal Brahmajyoti. Consequently, they fall down again into this material world, and they begin to open hospitals and various, altruistic activities like that. They try to do good things in the world for mankind. They're focusing just on the welfare of the material body and society, and they give up their quest for going higher than the Brahma. Well, they have no knowledge. This is the tragedy. Consequently, they fall down again into this material world from the Brahmajyoti. The Mayavadis, actually, when the Mayavad, like a Jnani, if he is able to access the Brahmajyoti, which is conceivable, then he annihilates his own spiritual identity completely. He wants to merge, like Sayuja Mukti. He wants to merge into the Brahman. And he annihilates his own essential existence. This is what the Buddhists also want to do. They want to annihilate their ego, their false ego, and they annihilate their very spiritual identity along with that. They annihilate all variety. So they're just like an atomic spark in the Brahmajyoti. But Srila Jiva Goswami, in his Laghu Bhavanamrita, he describes that even that spiritual spark is performing service in the sense that it's enhancing Krishna's Brahmajyoti. Even in a minuscule way, that light is actually adding to the Brahmajyoti, because you can't avoid the essential constitution of the jiva to serve the Lord. So even they try to annihilate everything, they're still serving the Lord with the illumination of their atomic soul. You understand? It's very wonderful to appreciate. And that soul can stay there for all eternity, unless a great saint comes through the airwaves and by the mercy of his lotus feet comes into influence with that atomic soul, then again his desire to love will wake up. That's what will be ignited. And when he desires to love, then he has to come back here to learn how to love. First to love materially. You first love your mother, etc. And then you eventually, hopefully, you can be influenced by the scriptures, etc., and come to learn to loving God. But it's the information of God that's going to make the difference. Unless you have plenty of information about God, and this is contained in the Leelas. When we hear the beautiful Leelas of the Lord, this is inspiring this personality that you want to connect. You have to want to connect with him. It has to come from your own volition, your own desire. That's the key. We're purifying the material desire to the spiritual desire. Understand? As a result, they cannot understand devotional service or the worship of the Supreme Person, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. The Mayavadi philosophers consider deity worship in devotional service to be pratibimbavad. Pratibimbavad means a reflection. There's chaya and pratibimba. Chaya is actually the shadow of a real object. Pratibimba is just a reflection in a mirror or in the water. It's not a reality at all. Chaya is something, but pratibimba is just a reflection, or the worship of the form that is the reflection of a false material form. Yes. Thus, the Lord's Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has gone to such lengths to unpack this so beautifully. His the clarity with which he's writing. He knows who he's speaking to. For many thousands of years, these purports will be available for humanity to get clear, profound knowledge. Thus, the Lord's transcendental form, which is eternally blissful and full of knowledge, is unknown to Mayavadi philosophers. Although the term Bhagavan is explicitly described in Srimad Bhagavatam, they cannot understand it. Brahmati, Paramatmati, Bhagavan iti Shabhyate. It's in three forms. We've discussed this already. Bhagavatam 1-11. The Mayavadis try to understand Brahman only, or at most Paramatma. Why? Because it seems like a phantasmagorial, mystical experience.
Fictional.
Huh?
Fictional. Fictional.
Fictional, yes. It's Well, it's not fictional.
Not.
It is a reality.
Yeah.
It's not false. It is a reality. And there is a taste in that, but it's a limited taste. Paramdrisvara nivartante. It's the lower taste. Unless you're being exposed to the higher taste, you will just stay with the lower taste. It's all education again. This is why, if we're in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, we should be considering constantly, how can I educate the world around me? If I've gained anything from my studying, from however many years of practice, then how am I going to use that study in the benefit of humanity to direct them towards an appreciation of the form and the supreme absolute reality? This is what our life should be. If we take up this mission, this is the mission of Mahaprabhu. This is how we will get the mercy to enter these higher realms of consciousness. This is called developing our own compassionate nature. I was talking to one Babaji the other day, and he didn't really click with this idea. He was thinking, no, you should just do bhajan, smaranam. You don't have to actually try to consider the fallen nature of the world. This is going on by Krishna's desire and not sort of participating. But that's not the mood of any of our acharyas. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur wrote extensively. He lived in Radhakund. He was a Babaji also, living in Radhakund. But he wrote Bhagavad Gita in his last years. He wrote the commentary. He wrote all of this Artha Darshani, this commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam, for the welfare of humanity. They were completely immersed in that. Narottam Das Thakur writing so many beautiful prayers and songs for the welfare of humanity. Krishnadas Kaviraj himself, such an older person. There's a picture of him in Radhakund at his samadhi. And he's crouched up writing on his palm leaf in such an old body. Why? He could be doing bhajan, just thinking of all these things and be dancing in the Ras Lila in his spiritual form. Of course, he's a siddha. But no, he's come to actually try and distribute this knowledge with his compassion and be part of Mahaprabhu's mission to the world. And certainly Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was very much of that nature. My Gurudev also, our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Bigran Keshav Maharaj, traveled all over India. Did so, and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Bhaktivinoda Thakur spent his whole life writing. They all, who hasn't tried to distribute this wealth? But someone who doesn't think that that's important. What's more important is my own reaching for this smaranam stage, this stage of remembrance of the Leela of Radha and Krishna and my internal service to them. Of course that's there, and that should be there. That should be cultivated also. But at the same time, this balance, this acha and pracha, it should be, the preaching should be there. You can't just exclusively retire. Otherwise, you won't have any mercy coming. We're crying out for mercy. This is when Srila Bhakti Rakshak Maharaj describes that he was chanting so much, living somewhat of a reclusive life in Koladweep, and there was an appearance of the Panchatattva, or it was Nityananda, I can't remember which, and he was crying out for the mercy of Nityananda, I think it was, maybe even in Ekachakra. And Nityananda Prabhu said to him, well, what mercy are you giving? What mercy are you distributing? You're crying out to me for mercy, but what mercy are you giving? Everyone, if they even know one shloka, has some mercy to give. So we should take confidence of that. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada would send brand new devotees to open centers. They just knew one verse of Bhagavad Gita, but they had the spirit of wanting to share these truths, educate these truths with the people. Therefore, the first principle is we must become educated ourselves to some degree, and then we should try to distribute this knowledge. The Mayavadi philosophers considered deity worship in devotional... Oh, Pati Brahma said that. Although the term Bhagavan is explicitly... Yes, I described that also. The Mayavadis try to understand Brahman only, and at the most, Paramatma. Paramatma is like an impersonal. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. I'm seeing everything with equal vision. I'm seeing that Paramatma within everybody. This is the mood of the yogis. The yogis are on that platform, and they have all kinds of mystical opulences with that platform. That's actually what they want. The yogis, they desire that. That's their material desire. But they become higher than the Mayavadis or the Brahmavadis because they're acknowledging the Sat aspect, the form of the Lord. Existence potency, yes. This Paramatma.
Prahlad Maharaj was also.
No. Prahlad Maharaj is Jnani Bhakta, yes, he's Jnani Bhakta. He's seeing the Lord in everyone, but he has a personal relationship with the Lord. He's not like a yogi. He loves the Lord. He would chant, sing, distribute the holy name. However, they are unable to understand Bhagavan. Therefore, this is what Ganesh's conundrum was. I described Ganesh, he breaks his pen trying to understand this verse. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, says, Maya Prita Jnana. Because of the temperament of the Mayavadi philosophers, real knowledge is taken from them. Krishna can cover, what's that verse? Sarvasya kaham hridi sanivisto matahat smritiya jnanam aparanam cha. That Krishna will cover your intelligence, or he can bestow your intelligence. He can cover you. I mean, we've probably all experienced this to some degree. If we've suddenly engaged in some type of material activity with intensity, then our higher consciousness will be covered directly, and you'll become somewhat stupefied in your activities, etc. This is, we probably have all had experiences of this. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, because of the temperament of the Mayavadi philosophers, real knowledge is taken from them. Because they cannot receive the mercy of the Lord, they will always be bewildered by his transcendental form. This is so beautiful to appreciate. It's only by Krishna's grace, Krishna's mercy, that these truths can wake up fully in the heart of the jiva. He decides. And how does he decide? This yeyata mam prapadyante, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. As he sees his devotee, his sincere endeavor, then he will give that mercy. This is his munificence and his compassion. Krishna creates this material world partly just to demonstrate his own compassionate mood. He doesn't need that compassionate mood in the spiritual world. Everyone is fully in love with him. They're joyous in their service to him. It's only in this material world that Karuna Shakti can be manifest, because the jivas are suffering so much in their attempt to turn away from Krishna. How absurd. We suffer so much trying to turn away from Krishna. And all the suffering stops when we just turn to Krishna, that's all. And the first step of turning to Krishna is Sharanagat. And that's the last verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Sarvadhamma parityaja mam ekam saranam braja. Aham tam sarve papabhyo moksha ishmami vasara. Don't worry, but abandon all religion. Leave all of those ceremonial processes behind and just come to serve me with heart, fully, spontaneously. Where are we up to? Yes. Because they do not receive the mercy of the Lord, they will always be bewildered by his transcendental form. Yes, they can't comprehend a form of the Lord. It's vacant. All they can, at maximum, they can think of the void, or they can think of the mystic wonderland of Paramatma. Only these two, like the yogis. But Bhagavan himself becomes obscured completely. Impersonal philosophy destroys the three phases of knowledge: Gyan, Naya, and Nata. So that's the Gyan, which is knowledge, the knower, and the object that is being known. As soon as one speaks of knowledge, there must be a person who is the knower. The knowledge itself and the object of knowledge. Must be an object there. Mayavad philosophy combines these three categories. It doesn't show the distinction between them. Therefore, the Mayavadis cannot understand how the spiritual potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead act, because they're covered, because they don't actually want to ultimately love the Lord. They're too much in love with themselves and their own idea of their elevated consciousnesses. Because of their poor fund of knowledge, where did I read that? Therefore, the Maya bodies cannot understand how the spiritual potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead act. Because of their poor fund of knowledge, they cannot understand the distinction in the spiritual world between knowledge, the knower, and the object of knowledge. Because of this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considers the Mayavadi philosophers more dangerous than the Buddhists. So these are the words ultimately of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj. He's receiving these words directly from Raghunath Das Goswami and directly from Rupa Goswami. So ultimately, these are the direct words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is saying this. So we should be very cautious in our own vision, first of all, and seeing our own sincerity of purpose. Look in the mirror closely, examine ourselves, and see how much of a Mayavad tendency I personally have, and then work on this, and that should give us the vision to appreciate others who have perhaps not worked on that area so much, so that we recognize that Mayavadi tendency in others and we stay far away from it. We don't want to become involved with that. So text 169.
Jivera nistar lagi sutra kaila vyasa Mayavadi bhasya sunile haya sarvanasa.
Sri Vyasadeva presented the Vedanta philosophy for the deliverance of conditioned souls. He's speaking to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, telling him why this Vedanta philosophy was presented. He didn't present it so you could just juggle words around and become very well known and become like a Mahant and become like God. It was presented to relieve the conditioned souls from their bewilderment and come to an understanding of the form of Krishna. We've just described these two other processes don't have a form strongly behind them. I mean, Paramatma has a form, but it's not like a loving, interactive form of relationship. What sort of relationship do you have with Supersoul? He's like the witness. He's not saying anything. He's just observing all your activities.
Right.
What sort of relationship can you have with that form? That form can give you all kinds of magical powers, etc., and potencies of strength, of spiritual strength, to walk on water, etc. Those type, cities, yes. But that loving quality, recognizing the speciality, that Vaishishtya of Bhagavan, his variety is vacant to them, lost.
So the inner talks which are coming from inside, they are from Paramatma or Bhagwan then?
It depends on your level of understanding. If you are, that's why I'm saying we have to look in the mirror and understand what is our core desire. If your core desire is to have Paramatma realization, then they'll be coming from Paramatma. If your core desire is to connect with Krishna in a loving relationship, then it'll be more influenced by Bhagavan himself. It's a process. It's not black and white. So definitely Paramatma will inspire the soul, and we can be hearing that. This is why I once said to my Gurudev, and I've told you many times, when I asked, do we need to have Paramatma realization first? And he became so animated by my question, he jumped very loudly, grabbed my shoulder, said, never! If you have Paramatma realization, it's like having Brahman realization, you won't want to leave that place. Yes, I realize my Godhead, it's great. I love it here. I can tell everyone what to do and this and that, and I can be above the general humanity. But where is my relationship with Krishna? So he told me emphatically, never. It means I was pursuing some type of desire for mystical experiences. And that's not our goal. Not at all.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's also one kind.
The goal is this Bhagavan. That's the goal. The goal is the sambandha with Bhagavan. This is what we have to really have our lens focused, our compass focused on this. What is Shuddha Bhakti? Anyabilasita Shunyam. Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. Anukulyena Krishnanu. Shilam Bhakti Uttama. We have to know this verse. My Gurudev, I've told many times that any festival he went to, he would begin to explain this verse. And this verse, as we've said many times, is capsulated by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Bhakti Tattva Vivek. We have to be familiar with this. There's 4 chapters, and each chapter deals with a line of this. What is Shuddha Bhakti? What is Uttam Bhakti? And what is Sangha Siddha Bhakti, which looks like Bhakti, but it's Sangha Siddha Bhakti, it's inferior. And what is Arop Siddha Bhakti? That's inferior also. I can remember first reading this book many, many years ago. It was one of the first translations we had from Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. And I was so excited to read it, to finally, here I have it, the blueprint of what is pure bhakti. It's there, clear. And it's right at the very beginning. And it's the first step we learn. As bhaktas, we learn that verse. It's the first. If you don't know what is Shuddha Bhakti, how on earth are you going to fine-tune your focus to developing Shuddha Bhakti? You're going to mix it with this, it'll be Mishra Bhakti, all the way along the line. So we have to refresh, and know these things. What are we up to?
Last sentence.
But if one hears the commentary of Sankaracharya, everything is spoiled. Everything is spoiled. This is the translation.
Because of this.
I didn't start to read the purport yet, right?
No.
I just read the translation.
168, last purport, last sentence.
He's already read the Jivera Nistara Lagi.
Yeah.
169, we've already read. Be quiet. Go back to sleep. Purport. Factually, the devotional service of the Lord is described in the Vedanta Sutra, but the Mayavadi philosophers, the Sankarites are Mayavad.
Yeah.
Mayavad is covered Buddhism. It's the same.
What is covered Buddhism?
Yes.
He came to just to establish the Shastras.
Yes.
The Veda.
To the support of Shastra. Without Shastra, how can you actually come to Bhagavan?
Yeah.
We have to have Bhagavan. So Shivji, in his great compassion, he performed this miracle to bring the people back to the Vedas, but with an impersonal conception. So they would feel comfortable with it. It was still Advaitavad, which Lord Buddha had. Oh yes, that's kind of like the same as what my grandfather did. So I'll continue with that. So that was his initiating, clearing the ground. But then Ramanuja came. Then Madhvacharya came, Nimbaditya, Vallabha Acharya. Factually, the devotional service of the Lord is described in the Vedanta Sutra, but the Mayavadi philosophers, the Sankarites, prepared a commentary known as Sarika Bhasya, Sarirak Bhasya, in which the transcendental form of the Lord is denied. Is this what your father reads? Does your father read that?
No.
No? Okay.
Not Sarika.
Not quite that much. Okay. Most people in India do read this if they're not Vaishnavas. That's what they
most
actually...
of Brahmin,
Yes.
Okay.
The Mayavadi philosophers think that the living entity is identical with the Supreme Soul. He has the same constitution as the Supreme Soul, but the Supreme Soul is vast, and we are insignificant. That's the distinction is the difference, and the difference should be highlighted. In Jivadhamma, again, this is described. There are 5 similarities described. These 346, just let me look. I'm going to read it to you. I like to reference this at the same time, just to show you how profound is this Jivadhamma. It's saying here, first you should understand the non-difference between Ishvara and the Jivas, and after that I'll explain the eternal difference. This is on page 346, chapter 15. I want to read this now. So, Ishvara and the Jiva, and after that I'll explain the eternal difference. Ishvara is the embodiment of knowledge, Gyan Swarup. We are also the embodiments of knowledge. We also have the same quality, but it's tiny. Gyan Swarup, the knower, Nata Swarup, we are also the knower. This is the same. He's saying what is the non-difference.
Difference in moment.
Yes. One who considers or reflects. Mantaswarup, we consider and reflect, right?
Right.
When we're awake. The enjoyer, Bhaktri Swarup, right? We are enjoyers.
Right.
Krishna is an enjoyer.
We enjoyed.
Yes, but we are enjoyed. There's a difference, right? He is self-effulgent, Swaprakash. If you're a clairvoyant, you can see people's auras very easily. You have auras, you have
Yeah.
huge auras.
Yeah.
And if you have that vision, that focus, you can see the auras. So we also have illumination. Krishna has illumination, Swaprakash. And he also illuminates others, Paraprakash. If you make someone happy,
Okay.
you can inspire their aura also to pick up some light. He has his own desires. Ichamai, we have our own desires.
Right.
These are all similarities. And he is the knower of all. Ketragyan, we are the knower of our field, but he is the knower of all.
Indifferences.
The jiva too is the form of knowledge, the knower and the enjoyer. He too is self-effulgent and he illuminates others. And he too has desires and is the knower of his own field, Ketragyan. From this perspective, there is no difference between them. This is very valuable to understand these 9 similarities, because this is why we are one and yet different with Krishna. However, Ishvara is omnipotent, and by dint of his omnipotence, he is the basis of all these qualities.
Meaning of omnipotent.
Fully potent, omnipotent. Potent means potent.
Brihad.
And yes,
Brihad.
he is the basis of all these qualities which are present in him in full. Omnipotent. He is omnipotent.
Got it.
These qualities are also present in the atomic jiva, but only to a minute
Limited.
degree. Thus, the nature and form of Ishvara and the jivas are eternally different from each other, because one is complete and the other is minute. But still, in that minute, I've given the example 1,000 times of the water from the ocean.
Right.
In the spoon, it's the same. And at the same time, there is a lack of distinction between Ishvara and Jiva because of the similarity of their qualities. But it's the difference that is the vastness. Ishvara is the Lord of Swarup Shakti, Jiva Shakti, and Maya Shakti because of the completeness of the internal potency, Atma Shakti. Shakti is his maidservant, and he is the Lord of Shakti. He is activated, who is activated by his desire. This is the Swarup of Ishvara. Though the qualities of Ishvara are present in the Jiva to a minute degree, the Jiva is nonetheless under the control of Shakti. Everything is coming from Shakti, from Krishna. Krishna is the origin, is the source, the fire. It's all coming from that source. But the Jiva is a Shakti also. He's Jiva Shakti. So it goes on here very beautifully. You can read this yourself. In chapter 15, it's on page 346 in my edition. So, but this is the oneness and distinction or difference, which is what we're talking about here. Where we have to, we'll just finish in a minute. Their commentaries, we're talking about the impersonal quality. Their commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra are completely opposed to the principle of devotional service. How sad. It's not generating love and affection. It's generating knowledge and vairagya, detachment.
Brahmajyoti.
That's the Brahmajyoti qualities. Caitanya Mahaprabhu therefore warns us to avoid these commentaries. Yes, because if we hear about these, they'll sound very attractive, and I want to do that. And then I'll get lost.
Yeah.
If one indulges in hearing the Sankarite Sariraka Bhasya, he will certainly be bereft of real knowledge, which is devotional service. The ambitious Mayavadi philosophers, ambitious for what? Something separate from Bhagavan. They want something in this material realm. This is their ambition. They want to be like God, ultimately.
Control.
Huh?
Controller.
Controller, yes. That's why we're in this material world to begin with. So we're all tainted with this Mayavad to some degree, greater or lesser degrees, according to our sincere practice of devotion. The ambitious Mayavadi philosophers desire to merge into the existence of the Lord, and this may be accepted as Sayuja Mukti. This is the fifth type of mukti,
Yeah.
which the
Last.
Vaishnava doesn't want to be near. However, this form of mukti means denying one's individual existence. We just said that.
Right.
The Buddhists, for example, they annihilate their very soul. They have no more form or desire to please the Lord. They're just Om, just Shanti, Shanti, just nothing. It's a very blissful place to be after you've suffered in the material world with all kinds of pains and miseries. All of a sudden I can be above there. They have drugs that can take you to that place, right? People will like to go to that place.
Right.
But if you get in there, you'll never get out of there again.
I heard so many lectures of Osho last time. It was like so feel peacefulness.
Yes, peaceful.
So,
It's what the Buddhist monks, for example, walking across America are propagating ultimately. Yes, be Shanti. Everything's sweet and nice. Let me pat the dogs and the babies. It's all love and peace and brown rice. It's all nice. In other words, it is a kind of spiritual suicide. I left one sentence. However, this form of mukti means denying one's individual existence. In other words, it is a kind of spiritual suicide. This is absolutely opposed to the philosophy of bhakti yoga. This is what bhakti teaches us. It teaches us love to the divine, the subject and the object, not imagination. The Christians, for example, they love God, but they don't know really who God is. They don't know what his form looks like. What do they worship in a church? They worship someone being crucified on a cross. That's their deity in all the churches. And what do the Islamists, what do they worship? He has no form. This form. So how can they have an actual loving relationship? So this devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is brilliant. He's in every sentence saying the Supreme Personality is a form. Form is there, personality. This is absolutely opposed to the philosophy of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga offers immortality to the individual conditioned soul. Immortality. It wakes up our eternal immortality. We have it already. If one follows the Mayavadi philosophy, he misses his opportunity to become immortal after giving up the material body. The immortality of the individual person is the highest perfectional stage of a living entity. A living entity can attain. So waking up my Jivara Sarup Hoy Krishnaranitas, my eternal reality as a servant of the Supreme. We don't want to be servants, we want to be the master. That's our Maya. That's why we're Mayavadis, because we want to be the master. It's so clear. I'm astonished at Prabhupada's brilliance in constructing these purports. They are works of a past genius, really, because he's speaking it in such a simple language. He's not bringing in high philosophical conceptions. It's all very simply presented. Even I can understand it to some degree. So we also can understand it to some degree. We're very grateful and very thankful for these purports. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari. I was just reflecting on this picture on the cover of Nrsingananda. He's constructing a pathway in his mind for the Lord to walk on. How personal is that? At the same time, it's full of mystic opulence. So it's not like the devotee loses his mystic opulence. He utilizes his mystic opulence in service to the Lord, and it becomes so sublime and sweet. It's full of love. He's making this pathway for the Lord so that he can reach Vrindavan. He's decorating all the sides of the road with beautiful trees and flowers and shading situations and so on. So all of these things can be utilized for the Lord. Nothing, it's not that we forfeit anything.
Right.
We actually, but don't tell everyone that, because that'll be like then you'll start to go for that carrot. But actually, Krishna consciousness gives everything.
Right.
There's nothing that's lost. Go Premanande, Vanshakapaturubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya, Patitanam Pavanabhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namaha.